The Conservatives have spent the time since Thursday, Friday and the election out on social media and on the airwaves telling us all what a brilliant election it was for the Conservatives. And the Conservatives are back. Is that right? Or is there a bit more to it? Well, that's what this video is going to be all about. Before we get into it, thank you all to those of you who tuned in for the live streams on Thursday night, Friday morning. It was brilliant. I had great fun doing it. Over 200,000 people have watched those videos combined now, which is incredible. We've got over well over 1,000 subscribers off that as well. So if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for coming and subscribing and joining the channel. Call to action for all of you on this video is a lot of you said you really enjoyed the live streams as well. So I want you to get in the comments. Let me know in future for future live streams, what would you like to see covered and talk about, because we can't obviously do election night every week. So what would you like to see covered? What content would you like in the live streams? And what would you like, what days of the week would be best for you and what times? So that's what I need to know from you in the comments. And then we can maybe have a think about doing live streams a bit more frequently, because you guys did really enjoy them, as did I. So the Conservatives then. I've seen this this chart that I'm going to put on the screen now for you has been doing the rounds on social media. And like I said, just the narrative in general coming out of Conservative sort of the high command has been that actually things are going great. We held up, we're back. The recovery signs are there, and you know, we've even got their supporters on X saying this is signs that they're going to have a majority government in 2029. Well, I have to say I was bemused by this on Friday morning when we tuned in for our live stream at 10 o'clock. And Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, I think she was down in Bexley, which they held on to, and they were there. They were having a victory rally, pretty much. And like I say, yeah, saying, well, you know, while votes held up, here's signs of the recovery. So is there any truth to that? Well, there is. In certain parts, there is some truth to that. If we go to Fareham, which is the first one to look at, on the south coast. Now, bear in mind, this is Suella Braverman's seat is in this part of the world, so she'll be a little bit concerned that the Conservative vote share did hold up. They were clearly ahead in terms of the vote share. They got just under 39% of the vote in Fareham. Reform on just under 26% in second place. The vote shares, well, the Tories were down, but like I said, it held up okay. They were down 7 points. That's not really all that much to write home about. And actually, they were down less than both Labour and the Liberal Democrats. Obviously, Reform surged, as they did pretty much everywhere, but not enough to really get close to the Conservatives. And in most of the wards in Fareham, the Conservatives finished quite comfortably in first place, ahead of Reform when they finished in second. So Fareham was a good place for the Tories. Their vote held up well. By the way, just ignore the turnout on the right. We haven't got, I should have said, all the data. We haven't quite collated all the data yet. Thanks again to my volunteers who are still working on the spreadsheets days after the election, along with me, of course, now. So thanks to the volunteers. The data's not all quite in yet. There's a lot of councils that have been very slow getting this information on the internet as well. So it's all coming together. And once we've got a full data set, we will be doing more videos, of course. But just ignore the turnout for now. Bromley is another one. Vote share here in Bromley was actually very, very good for the Conservatives. They finished clear of a Reform by 16 points. Look, this was a London borough that was essentially, if Reform had a very good night and all the Conservatives had a very bad night, Reform had a chance of winning this. I think in most people's the consensus view on Bromley was that it would be a largest party, either Conservative or Reform, depending which way it went. But actually, the Conservatives held Bromley very, very comfortably, and their vote share here was only down by 5 points. Again, Liberal Democrat and Labour both down by more than the Tories in this Conservative territory. And again, Reform surging, yes, but nowhere near close enough to getting or not enough to get anywhere close to the Conservatives. So there you are. There are some parts of the country. There are other ones we could mention. The vote held up all right in Bexley, although it was down by over 10 points in Bexley. But again, not enough down for the Reform Party to really eat into them. And then they held comfortably in Hillingdon, which people expected this anyway. But Hillingdon and Harrow were comfortable holds. So there were areas where the Conservative Party held up in terms of their vote share. However, I think that's the exception and not the rule. If we go and look elsewhere across the country, and actually not even across the country, even in the southeast, things went really, really badly for the Conservative Party. If we go and look at Sussex, in West Sussex, Reform finished ahead in terms of vote share, just ahead of the Liberal Democrats, but you can see the Conservatives were pushed down into third place, ahead of the Green Party and just behind the Liberal Democrats. Their vote share here in Sussex took an absolute clobbering. They were down almost 24 points, with most of that going to the Reform Party. The Lib Dems increasing slightly as well. So West Sussex was not good. This was a majority Conservative council. They're now reduced down to just a handful of councillors. Reform and the Liberal Democrats are tied for the largest party. In East Sussex, much the same. Again, down 24 points, the Conservatives in East Sussex, with Reform the ones mostly surging up in the vote share. In terms of where the Conservatives finished in East Sussex, they're in fourth place, behind the Green Party, and quite comfortably behind the Green Party by over 2 points. So even in the southeast, this narrative doesn't hold up when you actually look outside very select few constituents of councils. So this is what I mean. This reaction is very bizarre. These are bad results for the Conservatives in heartland territories, really. You know, this is the blue wall, really. And in Surrey, I haven't got the graph data for Surrey because the two Surrey councils were new, so we can't really do a vote share change percentage. But both the Surrey councils, the new councils, East and West Surrey, went Liberal Democrat majorities. Most people had, I think, one of them down as a Lib Dem majority, but the other one as Lib Dem's largest party. So they've underperformed the Conservatives in Surrey as well, because the Liberal Democrats have got full control in both. But let's move out of the southeast, and things are much the same. If you go to the Midlands, Nuneaton and Bedworth, Reform had a crushing performance here. They finished well clear of second place on 43% of the vote. The Tories down on 22%. And the vote share change, again, very similar to what we just saw in Sussex. Conservatives down 22 points. And again, Reform just taking votes off of the Conservatives and Labour here. Labour are actually down more than the Tories in Nuneaton, but Reform up 43 points. The Conservatives down, though, a very, very uncomfortable 22 points. And Reform, I think, won pretty much every seat that was up for grabs in Nuneaton, maybe bar one or two. But even, and a very similar result in Dudley, by the way, in the Midlands. Of course, the Tories also lost Solihull, overall control in Solihull as well. Although they are still the largest party, let's go look at the map. They are still the largest party over here in Solihull, but they lost overall control. They lost Walsall to the Reform Party as well. Newcastle under Lyme was another one that was a terrible result for the Conservatives. Their vote share got absolutely hammered, and Reform managed to win this one as an overall majority because the whole council was up for election. So another one where Reform gained off of the Conservative Party. But then if we even branch out to places that, all right, in all fairness, you wouldn't expect the Conservatives to do too well. If we go up to Hartlepool and just look at the vote share, I mean, look, an absolute dominant performance from Reform up in the northeast. It really was incredible. And obviously that's mostly at the expense of Labour. And we'll be talking about that this week. Don't you worry about that. It's going to be quick fire this week. We're going to do a lot of maybe slightly shorter videos like this one, just kind of breaking it all down. And then once we've got the full data in that spreadsheet, we'll do maybe a bit more long form content. But yeah, crushing performance for Reform in Hartlepool. But bear in mind, like I said, the northeast is not really an area that you expect the Tories to do too well in, except for that sort of more rural area up in Northumberland. This is Labour heartland territory. However, bear in mind, 2021, when Boris Johnson was at the height of his powers, the Tories won a by-election, a parliamentary by-election in Hartlepool. So that was only 5 years ago. And look at the vote share change here. Well, yeah, like I say, obviously Labour down the most by 23 points, but the Tories down a pretty hefty 15 points themselves. And again, Reform up 40 points was just incredible. So just across the country, really, in England, just the Tories took a pasting, and we haven't even spoken about Essex. Let's go and look at the county map quickly. This one here. This map has basically no Conservative blue in it now because the Conservatives got absolutely hammered in Essex and in Suffolk. In Norfolk, the Reform Party failed to get a majority because Rupert Lowe's Great Yarmouth First won 9 out of 9 seats. That's worth talking about in future as well. But for now, we're talking about the Conservatives. And the Conservatives have got fewer seats on Norfolk than Great Yarmouth First, having been the majority party coming into this election this year. So they got clobbered in this county level as well. And like I say, this map now has got basically no blue left on it. Buckinghamshire is the only Conservative majority council left out of all of these big counties and unitaries that have been electing in the last 12 months. So they've been absolutely wiped out once again at the county level. We haven't spoken about Scotland and Wales. In Scotland, the Conservatives have been relegated down into, is it 4th place? Maybe even 5th place. They're behind the SNP, Reform, Conservatives, SNP, Reform, Labour and the Greens. They're in 5th place in Scotland. That's a terrible result for the Conservative Party. In Wales, they're in 4th place behind Reform, Plaid Cymru and Labour. So whatever part of the country you look at, really, you have to say that this idea that the Conservative vote held up, or that they showed signs of a revival, is very, very peculiar to a few places. Like we said, in Bromley, they did well. In Fareham, the vote held up for them there. In Bexley, it held up, although less. They won Westminster back. Of course, these are good stories for them, but they're very, very concentrated, mostly in London. And look, I think when we, like I said, I haven't got the full data in there yet. It is out there on other places, but I want to do my own data. I think what you'll find is the national equivalent vote share appears to be Reform. There's been a bit of debate about this, but there's one thing that says Reform got 31%, another one that said 27%, but the consensus that the main media people are going with seems to be the 27% one, which means that Reform are down on last year in terms of the national equivalent vote share, and the Conservatives were up by a couple of points. However, I believe the Conservatives on that were on 20 points, which means they're still down 4 points from their historically bad general election result in 2024. So even that narrative is tenuous, to say the best, although it would suggest they're going in the right direction. However, if you take London out of the equation this year, that's what's going to be very interesting to see. I haven't got the data on it yet, but we will get there. I think if you take London out of the data this year, where Reform did underperform, it's worth saying. Reform didn't do as well in London as they would have hoped. They won Havering, of course. Let's go to our, just zoom in on London here. So Havering, they won. That was expected. Bexley was expected for them to win, but they didn't manage to improve enough against the Tories. And then Bromley, of course, they didn't even come close to the Tories, really. So they did underperform in that east and southeast of London area. But if you take London out, where the Tories actually did quite well, ironically, it's not been a very Conservative-friendly place in recent years. This London area did quite well for the Tories. If you take that out, I think you'll find that the Conservative vote share across England was very, very poor and more in line with what we saw last year in those county elections. So we're working as hard as we can to get that data into the spreadsheet for you, and we will cover it as and when. But I wanted to do this first video. You might be surprised that I'm talking about the Tories in the first video, because in some ways they are the sideshow to what was a massive Labour collapse. And like I say, we will be talking about that this week, don't you worry. But I wanted to address this because I've seen it all over the weekend. Conservatives trying to spin this idea that actually this election went well for them, and I'm not buying it. I don't think you should buy it, and Conservative members aren't buying it. I'm in a group chat with some Conservative members, and they're not particularly happy with this response. You know, they're not daft. Conservative members are not daft, and they're not going to have the wool pulled over their eyes. They see that this was another bad election 2 years running. I don't know what the running total is, but they lost 500 councillors this year in England, over 500. And last year, I can't remember what the numbers were, but they're probably getting on for about 1,000 lost in 2 years, which is very, very bad. So I think all the spin is just a little bit misleading. And like I said, I just don't think most people are going to go for it. And I don't think it's going to play very well, as I said, with Conservative members, yeah, but I think in the wider population, people are going to look at this and say, but you've lost councils across the board. You've lost councillors. You're 5th in Scotland, 4th in Wales. You are diminished as a party outside of London and a few select areas of the southeast. And even in the southeast, you've been handed a pasting there as well. So a very, very strange response from the Tories. I think it smacks of head in the sand. And sort of a refusal to acknowledge that things maybe have gone badly for them. So, yeah, I thought I'd cover that first, actually, because of course the main story of this election was Labour and Reform mostly. But thought we'd start with that one. So thank you very much for tuning in, guys. But I'm going to try and get a video out every day this week if I can. No promises, but if able to, we'll do more of these slightly shorter videos, sort of focusing in on one topic like we have there today. So please do leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Get in the comments with your the stuff about the live stream. And also, of course, your opinions on what we've spoken about today as well. Are you buying this Conservative spin that they've had actually a good election, or are you not buying it like I'm not? Do get in the comments and let me know. Hang about, and we'll see you this week for some more videos. I haven't actually looked. I'm assuming there must be a by-election on Thursday, at least one. So we'll be doing a by-election roundup video on Friday, assuming there is one, of course, as normal as well. So thank everybody for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.